Chapter 2, Nonviolence. When we live in a world which debases people constantly, dignity is the great subversion. Throughout this book, I will be sharing my personal ideas related to a body of spiritual concepts and realities as I recognize them. Following on the ideas of the previous chapter, primary self, personal ideas, and local experience, it is not my hope that you simply adopt the ideas in this book and wear them as your own. Rather, I wish to share my viewpoints freely so that people can experience my personal reality secondhand, perhaps access some new perspectives on their own reality, and arrive at novel insights and co-create some new possibilities for themselves and others. Nevertheless, I want to use this chapter to explore several core ideas which are, for me, essential to how we should negotiate the sharing and exchange of spiritual ideas. For this purpose, and many others as well, I believe a set of core principles related to nonviolence will be essential to creating a healthy, civil, mature space where individuals are able to freely explore their own and others' ideas without fear of punishment or ostracism. Violence can operate in a variety of forms, all of which are some kind of attack on the dignity of our personhood. And so it is, in fact, a deeply interesting and meaningful discourse to unpack nonviolence as it pertains to the concerns of this text. Nonviolence feels, to me, like an ancient technology of immense power and potential. People talk about which technology is going to revolutionize the next century. I feel that if we are able to truly stick the landing and apply it in a mature and evolving fashion, nonviolence will truly be the revolutionary technology that will reshape our world. Nonviolence will be the greatest technological breakthrough of the third millennium. You do not need to change. First, I want to tell you that you do not need to change. You do not need to do anything different. You do not need to be anything different. You are whole and complete and valid right now. I don't care if you are wearing dirty clothes or if you can't think clearly or if you are in a bad mood. None of this means you have to change. You are completely valid right now, and forever. I want to say this outright and emphasize it because this text concerns itself with some spiritual ideas. And where there is spirituality, I feel we are always so close to prescriptions on how we should live, who we should be, what ideals or virtues we should embody. These can be explicitly called out in the form of edicts or principles, or they can be tacit, underlying expectations embedded in how certain ideas are explained or presented. Regardless of how it happens, I believe this is a form of violence against people. It is a form of violence against you, and I want to clear the space of any lingering specter of coercion before continuing. So I will say it one more time. You are complete. You are whole. You are valid. You don't have to change. You don't have to change for me, and I am not asking you to change. One of the ideas that helps me bring this home is an insight I had during a course several years ago. Circle of free will. I imagined a land that represents a person's internal world. And inside that world, there is one part of that person that represents their free will. Let's say it is a well. It is a well from which that person draws their original thoughts, ideas, and insights and channels them to make their own decisions. This process is sacred. It is not anyone's right to violate another's sovereign free will. So I imagined that there is a dotted line circled around that person's well. It represents the boundary of their free will. And the idea is that nobody is allowed to cross that line into the free will space of anyone else. Regardless of what we feel and what we want for that other person, we have to relinquish control when it comes to that other person's free will. If we needed to restrain them for safety's sake, for example, this could be a case of containing their behavior, but still would not represent an attempt to coerce them or contaminate the integrity of their decision-making. This model of sovereign free will and sanctity of personal choice is a helpful one for ensuring we maintain a healthy and liberated relationship, free of brainwashing or other coercive behaviors. It also allows us to give up on misguided attempts to influence the choices of others when it is outside the realm of our nonviolence. We designate the space where we can ethically influence outcomes and help people to understand and go no further. We will discuss this idea in greater detail below and see that when we incorporate the concept of energies, it becomes more alive and meaningful than we may have anticipated before. Using this idea of the sacred well, the sovereignty of self, we can refine the idea of nonviolence into a more mature direction. Nonviolence is not about preventing conflict or disagreement. It does not seek stasis or fixity of life. Nonviolence is not a negation of the vibrant and dynamic experiences we pursue and our right to express ourselves to others. Rather, nonviolence is about having a more mature viewpoint regarding the nature of reality in the context of many constituent agents taking part. It is about understanding how our world is a network of intersecting journeys. Each of us has our own individual path where we intimately explore and express ourselves. Nonviolence is about affirming a sanctity of the paths that exist in this network. It is about deepening our appreciation for each person's free will and their essential dignity and their path of growth. Condemning to helping. On a related note, we can consider how we often make demands of others, or how we seek to regulate human behavior by saying it is right or wrong to act a certain way. Many people complain or condemn when someone upsets them or causes harm to others. While condemnation may come from a constructive intention, it can be seen as a way to impose one's will on the behavior of others, which has its own subtle connotation of violence. This often leaves both parties feeling alienated toward one another. An alternative, which may be more effective and nonviolent in the long run, would be to shift our mindset from controlling others to requesting changes from others. We shift the focus away from the wrongness that the perpetrator is doing, and instead focus on the human needs that are being harmed or unmet. I find this is a healthier and more effective way to approach disagreements or conflict. Rather than exposing a monstrous perpetrator, we expose a hurting human being, which is an image we are naturally wired to attend to and care for. It may be a challenge to communicate our needs in this way, but perhaps vulnerability is the price of admission for the possibility of true resolution and community. This is a concept we see reflected in the tradition of nonviolent communication by Marshall Rosenberg, as well as the practice of satyagraha created by Mahatma Gandhi. One of the great essences of nonviolence is to shift away from a modality of enforcing others and to shift toward communicating to foster awareness and care toward others. Nonviolence and life after death. Referring to our multidimensional lens, the second principle is that our life persists across time, beyond the reaches of physical birth and death. As a result of this, we can see that using violence against another person will never be the most efficient path forward. They will, and we will, go on and on, beyond this lifetime and into the next. When we utilize violence, condemnation, or coercion, we are typically ejecting people and the meaning we have ascribed them out of our psyche and out of some area of our lives. But they will never truly vanish, and we will find ourselves and the world reckoning with these people well into the future. We are all victims of our own immaturities, and the only lasting path forward is to grow and mature. People grow best when they are in touch with their essential dignity and a spiritual well-being. If we attempt to override someone's free will or essential dignity, we are trying, and sometimes succeeding, unfortunately, to convince somebody that they are a lesser being, inferior to their true nature. These setbacks will always be temporary, however, as everyone will learn and mature in the fullness of time. A nonviolent perspective is capable of seeing everyone's intrinsic value and will work to amplify their essential dignity to create powerful, edifying relationships and act on the possibility of new collective outcomes. By developing our internal condition of nonviolence and expressing ourselves toward others and toward our world in a nonviolent manner, we create a fecund space for authenticity, honesty, and healing, and clarity of thought that can enable real progress in our context of experience. Willful personal change. At this point, I have told you directly that you don't need to change, and I have encouraged an intimate exploration of nonviolence which aims to prevent us from coercing others to behave or change in any way that violates their free will. At this point, you might even suspect that I don't want anyone to change, that I am in fact opposed to any sort of change. There are some who take this point of view, believing that we are essentially perfect deep down, and the world is perfect in its imperfections. In some ways, from a perspective of nonviolence, this is true, and reflects some of the ideas above. However, I find that my personal journey through life is woven with a thread of meaning that drives itself through a series of personal changes. That is, my life has become more meaningful as I have changed as a person. And as I have changed as a person, my life has become more meaningful. I have matured in ways that have allowed me to rise above my pain and frustration. I have been able to achieve greater consistency and a healthier level of self-determination, which has made my life much more satisfying. When I was younger, I felt, and still feel at times, like a ship lost at sea. So I do care deeply for personal change. I care about the possibilities it provides to improve our common experience of life. I care about its ability to restore and redeem our past experiences, folding them beautifully into the present in our multidimensional spiritual landscape. I care about the sense of wholeness, not just during the occasional amplified spiritual experience, but as a consistent sentiment throughout my life that change allows us to access. However, I want this change to be yours. It will belong to you. It will come from you. It will be driven by your own insights and leveraged through your own intimate free will. I will not tell you to change. I will share my ideas freely with care. Care for you and for your possibilities, but without the expectation that you will be of any less value ever, regardless of your behavior or perceived performance. By telling you that the change is yours to have, I hope to create a space where you can connect to yourself authentically and develop your own personal journey through your evolutionary coursework. It can be defined across many dimensions through your own insights and ideas. You are invited to pursue authentic personal change through your intimate personal ideas and your essential local experiences as your primary self. I am here for you, and all of this only and ever if it serves you. Violence and belief. I want to take a moment to distinguish between strong, bold action and violence itself. There are those who feel violence is necessary in our world. However, I believe they are conflating strong behavior, even healthy, aggressive behavior, with violence. For example, an individual may choose to express themselves through a piece of writing which includes strong themes which are bold and declarative. Is this boldness a sign of violence? The key aspect of violence is that it includes a form of violation. The idea of violence and violation, then, is that it transgresses something which should be held intact. For example, it degrades a person's essential dignity, or violates the sanctity of their freedom to make their own choices. Aggression is a natural and healthy form of exploration and expression, while violation refers to some transgression which steps outside the bounds of appropriate evolutionary conduct. We will talk about this more in Chapter 8 when we discuss ethics and optimal behavior. This specific idea is borrowed from the Seth material, and I found this distinction, aggression as healthy and natural versus the avoidable violations of violence, to be helpful. With that said, I want to discuss a bit about our beliefs and our tendencies toward forms of violence. Where do they come from? Why do we feel the way we do today? And what is the source of this violence? What should we do with the violence which is already present within ourselves? I do not claim to know all the fundamental forces that have driven violence in our world. In a general sense, though, I consider it to be a symptom of a relatively immature humanity. There are so many dynamics at play in our world which are presented to us as inevitable. The way political powers exploit people, the self-interest of local fiefdoms, the perennial tensions between different cultures, the tendency toward colonialist extractions of natural resources. These can seem almost like the rules of the road of our planet. But in fact, these are not rules. These are some of the behavioral patterns of our global population at a relative level of maturity. When we grow up a bit as a human race, We may look back at these behaviors we just discussed and see in stark clarity how preposterous they are, how needless. We will simply outgrow them at some point. However, I want to go beyond this on the topic of beliefs. At the end of the day, beliefs are not merely repetitions of phrases that we hold in our minds, which therefore dictate our behavior. Beliefs exist within a framework of concomitant worldviews, stories, biases, lived experiences, temperaments, feelings. One of the biggest factors at play in our beliefs is energy. Remember that energy was the first principle of our multidimensional lens. We are going to explore energy a good deal more and see how it can inform and reshape how we think about belief and behavior on a personal and collective level. Belief and energy. Energy is not merely an inert fluid that flows through our world. Energy is an underlying reflection and subtle reality to everything that exists. It interpermeates everything that exists physically, and it creates interconnections between different people and the events of their lives. Energy is, in many ways, very much alive. As an underlying fluid of our reality, energy carries our thoughts, feelings, and emotions, our attentions, preoccupations, and obsessions. It may exert a sense of peaceful calm, which helps us maintain equilibrium, or instability, entropic patterning, which can devastate a person's condition. All that we manifest, all that we express, renders itself comprehensively and continuously through our energies. We are always reflected and emitting continuously through our personal field of energies. In this same way, the world around us is also absorbing and sending out energies. People continuously produce energetic signals which tune their field of energies. When we read social media or the news or watch videos online, we are connecting with various energetic fields at once. We are connecting with the creators, the hosting platform, and other people experiencing and consuming that content. This is why we sometimes watch the news and feel completely overwhelmed with anxiety. While the information itself can be unsettling, sometimes we feel emotionally overwhelmed and affected in a way that is truly overpowering. In this case, we are usually connecting to a collective field of energy which is struggling in that way. It is not us per se, but the energies we are connecting to. And in the case of news, we will be mostly connecting to the other people who are consuming that news and are having such strong reactions. We pick up these reactions and begin to feel them ourselves. Even when we are aware that this is happening on an energetic level, it can be difficult to decouple ourselves from this intoxicating field of energy. We will discuss techniques for this in the following 2 chapters. In the same way that a person can be affected by an acute experience watching the news, we are similarly conditioned through our myriad energetic interactions in life. We are like fish swimming through many waters and currents. All of these fluids have their own unique characters. And as we pass through them, they interact with our systems. We add our color to these fluids with our presence, and we are influenced by them in turn. Through the twists and turns of our journey across months and years into decades, we develop the complex, rich, and nuanced qualities of our energies, as well as our beliefs ideas, biases, and the like. For this reason, it is important to expose ourselves to different fields of energy. In particular, if we are able to expose ourselves to healthy and balanced fields of energy on some regular basis, this can be instrumental for our growth. What this all means is the behaviors and beliefs of our world are encoded and exist as a kind of living entity in the energetic ecosystems of our world. People are constantly influenced and affected by this subterranean energy system. Just as a person may have a blocked or stagnant energy system, which is able to be healed and resolved through acupuncture, tai chi, yoga, energy work, which we will discuss in the next chapter, our world has a collective energy system which we work to heal, grow, and develop. From this standpoint, it is in fact far more important to look at how we contribute to the energies of the world than to focus in a single-minded way on physical actions and their apparent outcomes. Sometimes people want to make the world a better place, so they take part in conventional activist activities, protests, petitions, op-eds, and the like. But if you pay attention to the energies of some of these activities, they can, in some cases, have an energy which is full of violent coercions, resentment, and a somewhat stagnant character of energy. Note, I am not disparaging or discouraging healthy political activism, only highlighting a possible limitation we may identify with greater awareness of energy. If we need to heal our collective energy body as a global species, how could we possibly make a constructive change with a violent, energetic character? From this standpoint, we see it as so futile to leverage violent concepts to try to improve our world. Understanding energy, we see more clearly the wisdom of the famous quote by MLK. Darkness cannot drive out darkness, only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate, only love can do that. From a standpoint of energy, this makes perfect sense. Continuing the violence in our own quest for justice would be like playing different notes in the same key and tempo. The song remains basically unchanged. We have to change the whole song by changing our quality of energies. This very notion, changing the game by changing our energies, finding a wholly different way to approach our journey of co-creation, is one of the main topics for the remainder of this book. One of the best ways to start is to learn some foundational ideas for understanding our energies and working with our energies, Chapter 3, and improving our healthy energetic condition through key behaviors and insights, Chapter 4. Overcoming fear of energies. As we consider our energies as a medium for change in our world, we may limit ourselves by how we judge the world around us. Recognizing our interconnectedness with energy may cause us to feel avoidant or fearful of the world around us. We may feel vulnerable to threats or impacts from the outside world. We may feel that some spaces are impure and should be avoided. We may feel a need to divide the world up and reject certain things from us and from our lives. While I understand this point of view, I do encourage you to remain open to the things that happen to you and to the things you come across. I don't want you to feel powerless because you are not. The feeling of fear is itself an energy that you do not need to emulate. This is one of the values of our mindset shift of the primary self. You are living your life with your energy, and you are in the cockpit of your existence. You have the power. You are strong, and you are in a rich place of interaction and experience. Please feel empowered to reach out and interact with your world around you. Feel empowered to evidence your care and affection toward others. And likewise, accept others as fellows, people of dignity and worth, just like I have told you that you are. The things that exist in our world are created by other people. Sometimes these creations are relatively wise and honest, and sometimes more misguided. Let these things be exactly as they are, and don't feel prevented from extending your energies and your care to the world around you. You are strong and secure. There is a backdrop of clarity and peace from which we project ourselves into this sometimes strange world. So let us stay rooted in our sense of timelessness and be agents of care toward others.